At my sister's engagement party, my parents announced I'd be giving her my downtown condo as a wedding gift, in front of 45 guests. When I said no, threw wine in my face. I pulled out a folder and handed it to her fiancé. 2 hours later, the engagement was off. She screamed until security came. The ballroom smelled like lilies and expensive champagne. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in ivory silk, and everywhere I looked, people were laughing, toasting, celebrating my younger sister Madison's engagement to Derek Chen, a successful tech entrepreneur she'd been dating for 8 months. I stood near the back in a navy dress I'd bought on sale, holding a glass of sparkling water, watching my parents work the room like politicians. My father's hand never left my mother's back. They looked proud, radiant, like they'd finally gotten something right. Madison glowed in a white cocktail dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She'd always been beautiful, the kind of beautiful that made people stop mid-sentence. Blonde, blue-eyed, effortlessly charming. Growing up, her trophies lined the mantel. Her report cards went on the fridge. Her accomplishments were dinner conversation for weeks. Mine were footnotes. I graduated summa cum laude from state school. Madison barely finished community college. I built a career in finance, working 60-hour weeks to become a senior analyst at 32. Madison bounced between retail jobs and finding herself. I bought my downtown condo 3 years ago with money I'd saved and invested carefully. Madison still lived with our parents. None of that mattered tonight. Tonight was about Madison. It always was. The DJ lowered the music. My father stepped onto the small stage, microphone in hand, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" His voice boomed across the room. Conversations died. 45 pairs of eyes turned toward him. "First, I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate this beautiful occasion. Derek, welcome to the family, son." Applause rippled through the crowd. Derek smiled, his arm around Madison's waist. "Now," my father continued, "my wife and I believe that marriage is about building a foundation. About family supporting family." He paused for effect, letting the words hang in the air. "Which is why we're thrilled to announce that Madison's sister, Claire, will be giving the happy couple her downtown condo as a wedding gift." The room erupted. Gasps. Shocked smiles. Someone actually cheered. My aunt clasped her hands together like she'd just witnessed a miracle. I felt the blood drain from my face. My mother beamed at me from across the room, her expression saying, "This is your moment to be generous." Madison's eyes found mine. She didn't look surprised. She looked entitled. Like of course I'd hand over the 2-bedroom property I'd worked 7 years to afford. Derek looked uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything. "Claire," my father said, gesturing toward me. "Come on up here, sweetheart." Every eye in the room turned to me. The attention felt like heat lamps. I didn't move. "Claire." My mother's smile tightened. "Don't be shy." I set down my glass. Walked slowly through the crowd. People parted for me, some smiling encouragingly, others watching with that specific hunger people have when they sense drama coming. When I reached the stage, my father tried to hand me the microphone. I didn't take it. "Actually," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system, "I'm not giving Madison my condo." The room went silent. Not the polite silence of people waiting for a speech. The heavy silence of shock. My father's smile faltered. "Claire, we discussed this." "No," I interrupted. "You told me 2 hours ago in the coat check room that I was expected to do this. That's not a discussion. That's a demand." My mother's face hardened. She stepped forward, wine glass in hand. "How dare you embarrass your sister on her special night? After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Like what, exactly?" "We raised you. Fed you. Put a roof over your head. That's called being a parent. It's not a debt I owe." I looked at Madison. She was staring at me like I'd just slapped her. "I worked for that condo. I saved. I sacrificed. It's mine." "You're being selfish," my mother hissed. Then before I could react, she threw her wine directly in my face. Red liquid splashed across my dress, my neck, dripping down onto the polished floor. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Someone's phone flashed, taking a picture probably. I stood there, wine dripping from my chin, and something inside me went perfectly calm. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila folder I'd been carrying since the coat check conversation. My insurance policy. The thing I'd hoped I wouldn't need but prepared anyway, because I'd learned long ago that my family's love came with conditions. I walked directly to Derek and handed it to him. "You should see this before you marry her," I said quietly. Derek's brow furrowed. He glanced at Madison, then opened the folder. His expression changed immediately. Confusion. Then disbelief. Then something colder. "What is that?" Madison's voice went shrill. "What did you give him?" "Bank statements," I said, still looking at Derek. "Showing that over the past 4 years, I've transferred $87,000 to our parents. Mortgage payments, car payments, property taxes, credit card debt, medical bills." My mother's face went white. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. I continued, my voice carrying now to the whole silent room. "Also in there, you'll find documents showing that Madison has asked me for money 32 times in the past 2 years. Rent. Vacations. I have text messages, Venmo requests, everything. I gave her $15,000 last year alone." Madison's perfect face crumpled. "You kept track." "I keep records," I said. "I'm good with numbers. It's my job." Derek was flipping through pages, his jaw tight. He stopped on one document, read it twice, then looked up at Madison with an expression I recognized. "Betrayal. You told me your parents paid for your car," he said slowly. "You told me they paid your rent." "They did." Madison's voice cracked. "Through Claire, but you told me you were independent, that you'd been saving money." Derek's voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. "You told me you didn't need anyone's help." "I don't." But her voice had that desperate edge now, the one she got when things weren't going her way. "Derek, don't listen to her. She's just jealous because she's alone and bitter." "There's one more thing in that folder," I said, cutting her off. I looked at Derek. "Page 7. He flipped to it. His face went completely still. "What?" Madison grabbed for the folder. He pulled it away. "Derek, what is it?" "A lease agreement," he said flatly. "For an apartment in the city. In Madison's name and someone named Tyler Brennan." The room somehow got quieter. "That's..." Madison started, but she couldn't finish. Her face had gone from pale to blotchy red. "It's dated 3 months ago," Derek continued, his voice hollow. "Overlapping with when we were dating exclusively." He looked at her. Really looked at her. "Who's Tyler?" Madison's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. My mother stepped forward. "Derek, this is a misunderstanding." "The lease is signed by both of them," Derek said, still staring at Madison. "So either she's been lying about where she lives or she's been lying about Tyler, or both." "I can explain," Madison whispered. "Then explain." Derek's voice was ice. But she couldn't. Because the truth was, Madison had been seeing Tyler for 6 months while dating Derek. I knew because Tyler had called me once, thinking I was Madison, asking when she'd be home. I'd figured it out from there. Kept quiet. Waited. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I knew this moment would come. The moment my family would push too far. Demand too much. Expect me to sacrifice myself on the altar of Madison's happiness one more time. And I'd needed leverage. "You've been lying to me," Derek said quietly. "About money. About your family. About another man." He closed the folder, handed it back to me, and looked at Madison like he was seeing her for the first time. "We're done." "What?" "No." Madison's voice rose to a shriek. "Derek, please, I love you. You love what I can give you," he said. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Madison ran after him, her heels clicking frantically on the marble floor. "Derek, wait. Derek." The ballroom had erupted into chaos. Whispers became conversations, became outright gossip. Phones were out. People were filming. My aunt was crying. My uncle was demanding to know what just happened. My mother turned to me, her face twisted with fury. "How could you? How could I what? Tell the truth. You've destroyed your sister's life." I gave her fiancé information he deserved to have. What he does with it is his choice. My father stepped between us, his face red. "You're not our daughter anymore. Get out." "Gladly." I walked toward the exit, still dripping wine, still holding the folder. The crowd parted for me, some people glaring, others looking almost sympathetic. One woman, Derek's sister I think, nodded at me as I passed. From somewhere behind me I heard Madison's scream. High-pitched, desperate, echoing off the walls. Then commotion. Raised voices. Someone shouted for security. I didn't look back. I pushed through the double doors into the hotel lobby, where the noise faded to a muffled roar. The cool air hit my wine-soaked dress and I shivered. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Thank you, Derek. I didn't respond. I just kept walking out through the lobby past the valet stand into the night air that smelled like rain and freedom. 2 hours later I was in my condo. My condo, the one I'd earned, the one they'd tried to take, showered, changed, sitting on my couch with tea in silence. My phone kept buzzing. Blocked calls from my parents. 17 texts from Madison, each more unhinged than the last. 3 voicemails I deleted without listening. Then one text from my aunt. Your mother is saying you ruined everything. But I saw those bank statements. I'm sorry we never noticed. I stared at that message for a long time. The truth is, I didn't ruin Madison's engagement. Madison did that herself with lies and entitlement. I didn't destroy my family. They were never really whole to begin with, just held together by my silence and my money. What I did was simple. I said no. I told the truth. I protected myself. And for the first time in 32 years I didn't feel guilty about it. I felt free.